The resistance. The stars stretched into brilliant streaks as the UES Sentinel dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Arcturus system. Captain Ilara Vance stood on the bridge, her weathered face reflected in the reinforced viewports. At 43, she had spent nearly half her life defending Earth and its colonies, but nothing had prepared her for what they now faced. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the knot of tension in her stomach. "All systems nominal, Captain," replied Commander Kai Chen, her first officer. "Stealth systems engage. We're running dark." Arcturus had been home to the Luminary, a peaceful race of telepaths who had welcomed humans with open arms when they'd first ventured beyond their solar system. Now, the system was silent. No communications, no ship traffic, nothing but debris floating in the cold vacuum of space. "Lieutenant Rhodes, scan for survivors," Vance ordered, though she already knew what the answer would be. Rhodes, a young communications officer with sharp eyes and sharper instincts, worked his console with practiced efficiency. "No distress signals, Captain. I'm picking up residual radiation consistent with mass orbital bombardment." Vance's jaw tightened. The Luminary were the seventh civilization to fall in the past month. Before them, the coalition of free worlds had crumbled one by one, each falling faster than the last. The pattern was always the same. A massive fleet would arrive, overwhelm all defenses, and systematically destroy all resistance. No negotiations, no prisoners, no mercy. They called themselves the Dominion. "Captain," Chen said quietly, moving beside her, "we should relay our findings to Earth Command and pull back. Our orders were to observe only." Vance continued to stare at the view screen, at the shattered remains of what had once been a thriving civilization. The Luminary had defenses comparable to our own, Kai. They fell in less than 2 days. All the more reason not to engage. All the more reason to understand what we're up against, Vance countered. "If the Dominion continues on their current trajectory, they'll reach Earth in less than a week. We need intelligence, real intelligence, not just the scattered reports from fleeing refugees." She turned to the tactical station. "Lieutenant Commander Drake, take us in closer. Full stealth. I want to see what happened to the Luminary homeworld." "Aye, Captain," replied Drake, a former fighter pilot whose hands moved across the controls with fluid precision. Course laid in. The Sentinel was humanity's newest and most advanced warship, a prototype designed for deep reconnaissance and asymmetric warfare. Its hull was coated with metamaterials that absorbed rather than reflected sensor scans, and its engines were specially designed to leave minimal energy signatures. If any ship could get close to the Dominion fleet undetected, it was the Sentinel. Or so they hoped. As they approached the Luminary homeworld, a hush fell over the bridge crew. The once beautiful blue-green planet was now scared with angry red wounds where massive weapons had struck the surface. Half of a continent glowed with active volcanism, where there had been cities just days before. "My God," whispered Rhodes. "They didn't just defeat them," Chen said, his voice hollow. "They broke the planet itself." Vance felt cold fury rising in her chest. Tactical analysis. Drake studied his readings. "The damage pattern suggests energy weapons far beyond our current capabilities, Captain. I'm detecting unusual radiation signatures I can't identify." "Captain," Rhodes suddenly called out, "I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from the surface." Hope flared briefly in Vance's chest. On screen. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the face of the Luminary. Their normally luminescent skin was dull and gray, their 4 eyes blinking slowly as they struggled to focus on the camera. "This is Archon Veller of the Luminary Consensus." The alien's voice was weak, translated through the ship's computer. "To any who receive this message, beware. The Dominion cannot be fought conventionally. They learn, they adapt. Each attack you launch teaches them how to counter it." Vance leaned forward. "This is Captain Ilara Vance of the Earth ship Sentinel. We're here to help." The Luminary's eyes widened slightly. "Humans, I had hoped you would receive our warning. It is too late for us, but perhaps not for you. What happened here, Archon? How do the Dominion overcome your defenses so quickly? They are connected, one consciousness across many vessels. What one experiences, all learn instantaneously. The luminary coughed, a blue fluid speckling their lips. Our telepathic defenses, they were useless. The Dominion's mind is unlike anything we've encountered. Vast, ancient, and utterly without mercy. On the tactical display, Drake suddenly stiffened. Captain, 3 unidentified vessels just appeared on long-range sensors. They're heading directly for us. Vance kept her voice calm. Archon, we need to evacuate you. Give us your coordinates. The luminaries shook their heads slowly. No time, but I can give you something more valuable. They held up a small crystalline device. Our researchers discovered a potential weakness. The Dominion's neural network experiences feedback loops when the transmission abruptly cut off as the entire planet shook. Behind the Archon, the ceiling of whatever shelter they were in began to collapse. Archon, Vance called out, but the screen had gone dark. Dominion vessels closing fast, Drake reported. 2 minutes to intercept. Vance made a split-second decision. Launch a stealth probe to the Archon's coordinates. If they're still alive, or if that device survived, we need it. Probe away, Drake confirmed seconds later. Enemy vessels altering course, Chen reported. They've detected the probe launch. Vance nodded grimly. As expected, Rhodes, prepare a transmission burst to Earth Command. Full encryption. Include all our sensor data and the Archon's message. Captain, Drake's voice was tense. The approaching ships, their configuration is changing. On the view screen, the 3 Dominion vessels were indeed transforming. Their sleek, almost organic-looking hulls were shifting, components rearranging themselves like pieces of a puzzle. Weapon ports opened along their sides, glowing with an eerie blue light. Fascinating, murmured Dr. Imani Okafor, the ship's chief science officer. Their ships appear to be modular, capable of reconfiguring based on tactical requirements. Very fascinating, Vance replied dryly. Also terrifying. Status on that probe. Approaching the surface now, Drake reported. Recovery in 30 seconds. Dominion vessels will be in weapons range in 45 seconds, Chen added. Vance allowed herself a tight smile. Then we have 15 seconds to spare. Hold position. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances, but no one questioned the order. They'd served with Vance long enough to trust her judgment, even when it seemed to court disaster. Probe has reached target coordinates, Drake announced. Scanning. I'm detecting the crystalline device. Recovery in progress. On the tactical display, the Dominion ships were closing fast, their weapon systems fully powered. 20 seconds to weapons range, Chen reported. Probe is ascending, Drake said. 15 seconds to recovery. Vance nodded calmly. Prepare jump coordinates back to Earth. Engage on my mark. 10 seconds to weapons range. Probe recovered and secured, Drake announced. Dominion vessels charging weapons. Jump now, Vance ordered. The stars stretched into lines once more as the Sentinel leaped into hyperspace, narrowly avoiding the first volley from the Dominion ships. The tension on the bridge remained high until Chen confirmed they weren't being pursued. Plot a circuitous route back to Earth, Vance ordered. Multiple jumps. I don't want them tracking us. Aye, Captain. Vance turned to Dr. Okafor. I want that crystal analyzed immediately. Whatever the luminary discovered may be our only hope against the Dominion. I'll handle it personally, Okafor promised, already heading for the science lab. As the Sentinel made its way back to Earth, jumping from system to confuse any pursuit, Vance retreated to her ready room. The small office adjacent to the bridge offered a moment of privacy, a chance to process what they'd witnessed. She accessed her personal terminal and recorded a message to Admiral Helena Zhao, Earth's highest-ranking military officer and her former mentor. Admiral, What we've encountered exceeds our worst projections. The Dominion isn't just another hostile alien force. They represent an existential threat unlike anything humanity has faced before. Their technology, their tactics, their very nature defies conventional military response. She paused, considering her next words carefully. But they can be beaten. The luminary found something. A weakness in the Dominion's neural network. We've recovered data that may be crucial to developing countermeasures. However, we need time to analyze it. Time Earth may not have if the Dominion maintains their current trajectory. Vance took a deep breath. I'm requesting permission to take the Sentinel back out. Not to engage the Dominion directly, that would be suicide. But to delay them, to buy Earth the time it needs to prepare. The Sentinel was designed for asymmetric warfare against superior forces. It's time to put that design to the test. She ended the recording and sent it, knowing the Admiral would receive it hours before the Sentinel itself returned to Earth. Vance had no illusions about what she was proposing. A single ship against an armada that had crushed entire civilizations. The odds were beyond impossible. But throughout human history, impossible odds had brought out the best in humanity. Their creativity, their resilience, their determination to survive against all odds. These were weapons the Dominion couldn't anticipate or adapt to so easily. Vance stared at the stars streaming past her viewport. You think you know what's coming, she whispered to the distant Dominion fleet. Let's show you how wrong you are. The last stand. The Rigel Narrows formed a natural bottleneck in space, a corridor of relatively stable space, surrounded by a dense field of asteroids and electromagnetic anomalies that made hyperspace travel dangerous, if not impossible. For centuries, it had been a strategic trade route between the inner and outer sectors of the galaxy. Now it would serve as humanity's best hope for survival. Captain Ilara Vance stood on the bridge of the UES Sentinel, studying the tactical display with intense focus. After returning to Earth 4 days ago, events had moved with dizzying speed. Dr. Okafor had analyzed the luminary crystal, discovering crucial information about the Dominion's neural network. Meanwhile, Admiral Zhao had approved Vance's audacious plan, not without reservation, but with the understanding that conventional tactics would fail against the approaching threat. Status report, Vance ordered, her voice carrying across the now expanded bridge. The Sentinel had undergone hasty modifications in the brief time it had spent at Earth, retrofitting experimental technology based on the luminary data. All systems operational, Captain, Chen replied. Project Blacklight is online and ready for deployment. Vance nodded, turning to the new addition to her crew. Dr. Nadia Rizov stood at a specially designed console, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. The neurophysicist had been the architect of Project Blacklight, a theoretical weapon that had been deemed too dangerous to develop until now. Dr. Rizov, are we ready? The scientist didn't look up from her work. The emitters are calibrated to the frequencies we extracted from the luminary data. In theory, they should create the neural disruption we're hoping for. She finally met Vance's gaze. But Captain, I must emphasize again that we're working with incomplete information. The Dominion's neural network is unlike anything we've encountered before. Noted, Doctor. But incomplete information is all we have. Vance turned to tactical. Lieutenant Commander Drake, status of our defensive preparations. Drake gestured to the display. Mines deployed as ordered, Captain. We've established 3 layers of defense throughout the Narrows. Additionally, the asteroids in sectors 7 through 12 have been fitted with gravitational manipulators. We can create localized distortions on your command. Perfect. Vance glanced at the chronometer. The Dominion fleet will be here in less than 3 hours. I want all systems checked and double-checked. We get one shot at this. As the crew dispersed to their tasks, Chen approached her. Permission to speak freely, Captain. Always, Kai. This plan, it's brilliant but incredibly risky. If the Dominion adapts as quickly as the luminary warned, we could lose everything. Vance smiled grimly. That's why we're not using conventional weapons as our primary strategy. Project Blacklight targets something the Dominion can't simply adapt around: their very nature. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. The Luminary data had revealed that the Dominion's hive mind, while incredibly efficient at sharing information and adapting to threats, had one critical vulnerability. Synchronized neural patterns could be disrupted by precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses. Project Blacklight would exploit this weakness, broadcasting a signal designed to create cascading feedback loops throughout their neural network. But for it to work, they needed to get close enough to a significant portion of the Dominion fleet and survive long enough to activate it. "Captain," Rhodes called from communications, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command." On screen, Admiral Zhao's weathered face appeared on the view screen. "Captain Vance, status update." "We're in position, Admiral. All systems are go for Operation Firebreak." Zhao nodded, her expression grave. "The remaining Earth fleet is deployed as you requested, hidden in the asteroid field at the far end of the Narrows. They'll move on your signal, but you should know, we've only managed to recall 60% of our forces. The rest won't make it back in time. It will have to be enough, Admiral." "Indeed." Zhao paused. "I want to be clear, Ilara. This mission is about buying time, not a suicide run. If Project Blacklight fails, you are ordered to withdraw and rendezvous with the main fleet. Earth needs the Sentinel, and we need you." "Understood, Admiral." "Good hunting, Captain. Earth stands with you." The transmission ended. Vance turned to survey her bridge crew. They were the best of the best, each chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to think creatively under pressure. Most importantly, they all understood the stakes. If they failed here, Earth would face the same fate as the Luminary and countless other civilizations before them. "All hands, this is the captain." Her voice echoed throughout the ship. "In less than 3 hours, we will engage an enemy that has never known defeat. They've crushed entire civilizations, broken worlds, and left nothing but ashes in their wake." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But they've never faced humans before. They've never encountered a species that thrives on beating impossible odds, that finds ways to turn weakness into strength. Today, we stand not just for Earth, but for every civilization that has fallen to the Dominion, and for every world that will never know their tyranny if we succeed." Throughout the ship, crew members listened intently, drawing strength from their captain's words. "Each of you knows your duty. Each of you knows what's at stake. I have full confidence that when the moment comes, you will perform with courage and ingenuity that would make all of humanity proud." She smiled slightly. "Let's show the Dominion what one human ship can do." Vance out. As the hours ticked down, the tension on the bridge grew palpable. Final preparations were made, systems were checked and rechecked, and personal messages were recorded, just in case. And then the sensors lit up. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Drake announced, "Dominion fleet incoming." Vance straightened in her chair. Battle stations, stealth systems to maximum. The lights on the bridge dimmed as the Sentinel diverted power to its stealth systems. On the view screen, space itself seemed to tear open as the first Dominion vessels emerged from hyperspace. Sleek, almost organic-looking ships that moved with unnatural precision. "Count," Vance asked quietly. 37 vessels in the first wave, Drake reported. "More signatures detected. Second wave emerging now. Total count, 112 vessels, Captain." Someone whispered a curse. The Dominion fleet was even larger than intelligence had estimated. "Hold position," Vance ordered. "Let them enter the Narrows." The Dominion fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their ships arranged in a three-dimensional pattern that optimized sensor coverage and defensive capabilities. There was a cold efficiency to their movements, a machine-like precision that was both impressive and terrifying. "They're entering the first minefield," Drake reported. On the tactical display, They watched as the first line of Dominion ships encountered the cloaked mines. Explosions bloomed in the void, engulfing several smaller vessels. But the reaction of the fleet was instantaneous. The remaining ships immediately adjusted their course, forming a new pattern that would minimize damage from similar weapons. "They're adapting already," Chen murmured. "As expected," Vance replied calmly. "Proceed with Phase 2. Drake nodded, activating gravitational manipulators in Sector 7. In the asteroid field flanking the Narrows, hidden devices came to life, creating localized distortions in spacetime. Several massive asteroids, their trajectories carefully calculated, began to move toward the Dominion fleet. The alien vessels detected the threat and moved to evade, but the narrowness of the corridor limited their options. Two larger ships were struck, their hulls crumpling under the impact. "Direct hits," Drake confirmed. "But they're reconfiguring," Vance finished for him. The damaged Dominion ships were indeed changing shape, their modular components rearranging to compensate for the damage. It was as if they were healing themselves. "Fascinating," Dr. Rizov murmured. "Their ships appear to be extensions of their neural network, capable of reconfiguring based on collective analysis of threats. Which means conventional attacks will become increasingly ineffective," Vance noted. "How soon before we can deploy Blacklight?" "We need them closer," Rizov replied. "The signal degrades over distance. For maximum effect, we need at least 30% of their fleet within 100,000 kilometers." Vance nodded. "Then it's time to make ourselves known. Lieutenant Rhodes, prepare to broadcast on all frequencies." The communications officer looked surprised but quickly complied. "Ready, Captain." "This is Captain Ilara Vance of the United Earth Ship Sentinel to the Dominion fleet. You have entered restricted space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your aggression." The bridge fell silent as they waited for a response. For several long moments, there was nothing. Then Rhodes stiffened. "Captain, we're being scanned. Multiple frequencies, extremely powerful." "They're looking for us," Chen said. Vance nodded. "Good. Let's give them something to find. Deactivate stealth systems. Bring weapons online." The Sentinel shimmered into visibility, its once hidden profile now clearly visible to the Dominion sensors. The reaction was immediate. Dozens of enemy vessels altered course, converging on the lone human ship. "They've detected us," Drake confirmed. "Multiple vessels on intercept course." "Defensive pattern Alpha," Vance ordered. "Selective targeting. Conserve ammunition. Remember, we're not trying to win a conventional battle here." The Sentinel surged forward, its engines flaring as it executed a complex evasive pattern. The first volley from the Dominion ships streaked past, missing by narrow margins. "Return fire," Vance commanded. "Target their lead vessels, conventional weapons only. Save our surprises for later." The Sentinel's main batteries opened fire, lancing out at the approaching Dominion ships. Several shots connected, causing visible damage. But just as they had observed before, the alien vessels quickly began to reconfigure, adapting to the type of weapons being used against them. "They're learning," Drake reported. "Effectiveness of our weapons is decreasing with each volley." "As expected," Vance replied. "Initiate Phase 3. Throughout the Narrows, hidden drones suddenly activated, broadcasting on frequencies designed to confuse Dominion sensors. Simultaneously, the Sentinel launched a spread of special projectiles, not conventional warheads, but devices designed to emit rapidly changing energy signatures. The Dominion fleet's perfect formation faltered briefly as their sensors struggled to make sense of the conflicting data. Several ships collided with each other, while others fired at phantom targets created by the electronic warfare measures. "It's working," Chen said, a note of hope in his voice. "They're confused." "Don't celebrate yet," Vance cautioned. "How many ships are within blacklight range?" Dr. Rizov checked her readings. 23% and rising. "We need more." The ship rocked as a Dominion energy beam grazed their port side. "Shields holding at 82%. reported the engineering officer. But they're already adapting to our electronic countermeasures. Vance had expected nothing less. The Dominion's ability to learn and adapt was extraordinary, but it was also the key to their defeat. All power to engines, she ordered. Take us right into the heart of their fleet. Chen's eyes widened. Captain, that's exactly what they won't expect, Vance finished. No sane opponent would drive straight toward overwhelming forces. Do it. The Sentinel surged forward, engines straining as it accelerated directly toward the center of the Dominion formation. Caught off guard by the seemingly suicidal maneuver, several enemy vessels actually moved aside, creating a path that the human ship exploited ruthlessly. We're in the middle of their fleet, Drake announced, his voice tight with tension. Enemy vessels surrounding us on all sides. Blacklight status, Vance demanded. 47% of their fleet within optimal range, Rizov reported. It's enough for the initial phase. Initiate Project Blacklight, Vance ordered. Full power. Dr. Rizov activated the system, and throughout the ship, specially designed emitters came to life, broadcasting a signal that was invisible to the human eye, but devastating to the Dominion's neural network. The effect wasn't immediate. There were no explosions, no dramatic visual cues that the weapon was working. But slowly, the perfect coordination of the Dominion fleet began to deteriorate. It's working, Rizov said, her voice filled with wonder as she studied her readings. Their neural synchronization is falling. They're experiencing cascading feedback loops throughout their network. On the tactical display, they could see the Dominion ships moving erratically, their once perfect formation dissolving into chaos. Some vessels were actually firing on each other, while others drifted aimlessly, as if suddenly without guidance. Now, Vance said quietly, signal the fleet. Rhodes sent the prearranged message, and moments later, the Earth fleet emerged from hiding. Dozens of warships pouring out from concealed positions in the asteroid field. They fell upon the disoriented Dominion vessels with devastating effect, their coordinated attacks exploiting the enemy's newfound vulnerability. Dominion neural network continuing to degrade, Rizov reported. The effect is spreading beyond our immediate range as their ships try to resynchronize with affected vessels. It was working better than they had dared hope. The very strength of the Dominion, their interconnected consciousness, had become their greatest weakness. Like a computer virus spreading through a network, the disruption was propagating through their entire fleet. But the victory was far from assured. Even disoriented, the Dominion ships were formidable, their technology still superior to Earth's in many ways. And some vessels at the edges of the fleet appeared to be isolating themselves from the network, cutting off the spread of the disruption. They're adapting, Chen warned. Some ships are severing their neural connections to preserve functionality. Vance had anticipated this. Phase 4. Prepare to broadcast the modified signal. The Luminary data had included not just information about the Dominion's neural network, but about their fundamental psychology. And Dr. Rizov had used this to create a secondary aspect of Project Blacklight, one designed not to disrupt but to manipulate. Broadcasting now, Rizov confirmed. The modified signal targeted a specific region of the Dominion neural architecture associated with threat perception and risk assessment. In essence, they were attempting to induce fear, or the closest equivalent the alien hive mind could experience, amplifying the chaos already spreading through their fleet. The effect was dramatic. Dominion ships that had been severing their connections suddenly reversed course, fleeing the battlefield entirely. Others turned their weapons on their own kind, apparently perceiving them as threats. Multiple Dominion vessels in full retreat, Drake reported, unable to keep the amazement from his voice. Others appeared to be attacking each other. The Earth fleet pressed the advantage, their coordinated attacks devastatingly effective against the now disorganized enemy. Ship after ship fell to their weapons, unable to mount an effective defense without their neural network's perfect coordination. We've done it, Chen said softly. They're retreating. Vance watched the tactical display, where the remnants of the once mighty Dominion fleet were indeed fleeing in disarray. But she felt no elation, only a grim satisfaction. This was merely the first battle in what would likely be a long war. "Status report," she ordered. "Shields at 29%. The engineering officer reported. Multiple hull breaches on decks 4 through 7 automatically sealed. Weapons at 60% capacity. Casualties: 17 injured, no fatalities." Vance nodded, relieved. They had been fortunate, far more fortunate than she had dared hope. "Captain," Rhodes called out. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Zhao." On screen. The Admiral's face appeared, her normally stoic expression softened by undisguised wonder. "Captain Vance, words fail me. You've achieved what seemed impossible. The Dominion fleet is in full retreat across all fronts." "Project Blacklight was successful, Admiral," Vance replied. "But I doubt this is the end. The Dominion will adapt, find ways to shield themselves against our signal." "Undoubtedly," Zhao agreed. "But you've given us something even more valuable than a tactical victory, Captain. You've given us hope. You've proven they can be beaten." As the Earth fleet gathered around the battered but unbroken Sentinel, Vance finally allowed herself a small smile. They had faced an enemy that had never known defeat, that had crushed entire civilizations beneath its heel. And they had not merely survived. They had won. Not through overwhelming force or superior technology, but through the qualities that had always defined humanity at its best: creativity, adaptability, and the unwavering determination to forge their own destiny. The stars seemed brighter somehow as Vance gazed out at them from the bridge of her ship. The Dominion had thought they understood what they were facing when they set their sights on Earth. Just another world to conquer, another species to subjugate. How wrong they had been. "Take us home," she said quietly. "Our work is just beginning."